Welcome to the GrowUp Podcast. I'm your host, Dan, and I'd like you to join us on this incredible learning journey. Our first guest for the first episode ever is Ben Vincenti. Ben is a trailblazer in the hospitality and event booking software business, both in Malta and internationally. Ben's story is nothing short of inspiring through multiple businesses that he's set up. His journey reflects the spirit of entrepreneurship, free thinking, and the resilience and relentless pursuit of excellence. Despite the challenges and the lessons that we've learned through filming the first episode, I remain incredibly impressed with the quality of conversation that came out while Ben was here. Within an hour and 20 minutes, we covered so much. We ran out of time, and his insights and experiences are nothing short of extraordinary and very value-adding. Without further ado, it is with great pride to introduce you to episode 1 of the GrowUp Podcast, featuring the remarkable Ben Vincenti. I sincerely hope you enjoy listening to this as much as we enjoyed filming it, and I hope you take away as much value as me and my team did. Thank you. Enjoy. Hello, and welcome to GrowUp Podcast. This will be the first episode. We are in White Light Pictures Studios, and today we have a special guest as our very first time guest on the very first episode, Mr. Ben Vincenti. He has to be called it, but he is a serial entrepreneur, someone who I also call a good friend of mine. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you for having me.
This is awesome. It's very exciting. I'm very nervous. I've not been on camera, I think, since a very long time. So it's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for taking up the offer.
Cheers. Thank you for the offer.
Cool. So Ben, you have done so much that it's really hard to really encapsulate within a conversation. But tell us a bit about yourself, what you are currently doing, and then we can just delve a bit more into information.
Well, currently I'm working in and on my business that I've created with my business partner Jonathan at Sapardi. So my world revolves around literally our company, which is a bit of a startup of startups, essentially because we have different brands, which you can consider them as separate businesses in their own right,
okay.
But they fall under the same umbrella. And I say a startup of startups because we essentially had to start again from scratch around 2 years ago when COVID hit.
Okay.
But that's what currently that I am working on. And we're going to delve more deeper into that.
I've got questions set up, questions which I packed up on the detail. But talk to me about like who you are, right? So obviously I know you. I've known you for a while. We've played football together. We've been out together. We've been to each other's houses, etc. But tell me a bit about your childhood experiences, and particularly the influences that moved you towards that entrepreneurship, right? That pushed you towards that, I'm going to fend for myself rather than, look for jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think, honestly, from a very young age, and I can't remember exactly the age, but I think it was like 6, 7, I always felt like this calling to want to do something from a business point of view.
Okay.
And for some reason, when I was really young, I never wanted to be like an astronaut or like a pilot or anything bombastic like that. But I remember being very young and wanting to. I wanted to aspire to become a hotel manager for some reason. No idea why, but that it is the truth. I felt that there would be something of prestige in that, but I didn't take that path at all. When I was in secondary, I studied, the sciences, the chemistry, the biology, the physics, etc. And I was doing computer science as an part, basically on the side.
Okay.
Private lessons essentially. Then when it came to A-levels, I had done the majors were biology and computing, so quite strange.
Very complimenting subjects.
Not really, but I was doing philosophy and English as well. And then when it came to, from doing the actual A-levels was where the party phases. So before, when I was always an A student in secondary, It's when I got my first girlfriend and started going out and doing all that. So the grades started to slip.
Obviously.
In fact, I had to repeat my biology A level, but then I had gotten in the B. But essentially, I had come to a crossroads when I had gotten my results to either, for some reason, in my mind, it was between going into either psychology or into physiotherapy.
Okay.
And at the final moment, I'm like, do I really want to touch humans for the rest of my life?
Okay.
And I'm like, no, not really. That's ain't for me. And I went for psychology. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made, honestly.
All right. So why psychology, right? So what attracts you towards that side? So psychology is very vast and it's fairly modern compared to other sciences, right? So what attracted you to it?
What attracted me and still attracts me in psychology is honestly, I first wanted to understand myself better, and I thought that psychology would be a pathway into that, and to understand other people better. And I'm fascinated by the mind. I really, really am, by my mind and the human mind in general. So I thought that it would be fascinating to go down that path, and I still believe, that the mind is everything. Our perception, me being here, my perception of where we are right now is all in my mind. If my mind stops, then there's no existence.
Yes.
And I believe that everyone's the same because we all share the same mind, if you will, or same biological makeup of the mind. So I said the mind is everything, and psychology is the study of the mind. So I'm like, it makes sense that you go down that path because it can open up so many other doors, which honestly it did.
So I love psychology as well. I'm not studied in it, but I do love to research and all that. And so I'm very little informed, which is very dangerous because someone with a little information thinks that they know a lot, right? So so I've touched upon it within my experiences within businesses, but and I had this form of awakening when I started delving into psychology of business, right? Through training with previous employers and accreditation and being a coach and all that, right? So I do have some experience. How did a new level of awareness that you get from that because I got it from a very little exposure I had. So whereas you actually studied it and have gotten the accreditation, the credits for it. How does a new level of awareness change the way you perceive life, right? So how is Ben pre-psychology studies and after that?
It's a very interesting question because, as you said, psychology is very vast and it depends on what school of thought or from, which school of thought that you abide to or that you follow. For me, the simple answer to that is it's not really the textbook psychology that did it for me because you can read all the books that you want. But it's more of an ongoing thing. And psychology, like I said before, I believe it's literally encompasses everything. It's everywhere. Psychology is we were talking about your kid before. Psychology is understanding and mirroring your kid to get her to go to bed earlier when she doesn't want to.
Which never works.
I'm
horrible at it.
Psychology is when you were a kid and you're trying to convince your parents to why you should stay out later, why it's okay for you to stay out later past the curfew. Psychology is trying to sell a product to your client. Psychology is being enough a shoulder to cry on for your best friend where they're going through hardship. So I wouldn't say, and because it's been so long since I studied psychology, I wouldn't say I'm coming at this from an academic point of view, but purely from a practice point of view and everyday kind of thing. And I try to draw on those learnings, but more practical learnings, not academic, of the brain and the humans and the human mind, of how it works, to try to make my relationships better in every aspect of my life. If it's in my personal life with my girlfriend or with my friends, with my mother, with my father, with my brother, with my colleagues at work, when we are discussing a new project or topic or whatever, psychology is everywhere. So that I try to draw on the learnings of academia, but through practice by getting to know people as well, into my everyday practice.
So how does self-improvement come into the mix then? So you obviously talked about making yourself better for your partner, your parents, your people, right? The people that are close to you and work and live with you and are friends. So self-improvement comes in different forms, right? And I think the challenge is the consistency of it, because it's very easy. I found it, like, I love self-improvement. I'm constantly trying to reinvent the way I think, right? Which is really obnoxious, but that's how I kind of define myself sometimes.
Yeah.
How do you keep on the line, right? How do you keep walking the straight line of I'm constantly improving? Because that's a challenge I found personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's another big question, right? But I believe in Kaizen, which is the Japanese concept of continuous improvement, and I live by it, like that. And it's coming even maybe from a bit of a, let's call it, much darker place, but maybe a more self-masochistic place, that it's never good enough. Whatever you do is never good enough. It's like you have this chip on your shoulder where even though if there's 1 to 10, and for whatever it is, you got to 10, you're like, oh, okay, why is it 11? Why is it 12? So it's a bit of a rat race as well. But I think improvement is that, continuous, like you said, which is very hard, to continuous improve. You're going to slip. No one's perfect to work, obviously. But I think that improvement is always trying to better yesterday, essentially. Trying to better, to take yourself forward, whatever it is. That is what I think that self-improvement is.
Okay, so that drive of I'm never good enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't that be detrimental to
for sure
health?
No, for sure, because it like you said, a rat race. There's no positive connotations to a rat race, I would say. So you do end up in a bit of a loop, and it can play play on your mind, because it's like you're never settled, you're never relaxed, you're never content. But it's a bit of a curse in a way. But it is a blessing and a curse, because I think for me, I use it is that it always drives me forward. I have a lot of drive, even when I don't have the fluidity for the drive. It allows me to push myself in uncomfortable positions, but it can be exhausting on the brain and physically as well.
Have you ever been burnt out as a result of that?
I think I'm burnt out right now.
Fair, okay.
No, I mean, and we're gonna touch on it more. But we've been going the rat race. We've been going at it from a business point of view, at 100 miles per hour. We're achieving a lot, but it does take its toll. Working 50, 60, 70 hour weeks, and Monday to Sunday, and always being on the clock, and always having to be on call. Yeah. It does take its toll. And yes, I do believe that, I was joking, I don't know if I'm burnt out right now, but I have been burnt out, yes. It does take its toll, because even though physically you can keep going, mentally you might not be in a good place.
So how important is it? I mean, the importance of going 100 to 1,000 miles an hour is, it's apex, right? It needs to be there. It needs to happen, especially in today's world, especially in the tech world. You need to be able to kind of, keep up to date, be ahead of the competition, etc. So it's super important. But how important is it also stopping and, shifting it up 50,000 feet in the air and just changing your perspective and figuring out, right, what do we need to do differently? Because if you're banging your head, a very, very important person in my life, who was a very big mentor in terms of my career, he was like, in business, you're gonna bang your head against walls, right?
For sure.
And the wisdom of business is knowing which wall to bang your head against.
Yeah, which battles to fight. Yeah.
So yes, you're going at 1,000 miles an hour, but figure out which track you're gonna use, right, to go there. So how important is it to take that step back sometimes and look?
I think it's one of the most important things. Even so, the thing is, are you able to do so? And for me, this is one of the biggest things in the last, I would say, year and 2 years, that I'm really trying to work on, and getting I adopted a dog, and it was one of the best things I ever did. Not because he's beautiful and I love him and animals are amazing, but I have formed habits around him as well, where I force myself to have to go for a walk every morning and evening, and I force myself to create the habit of not taking my phone with me. So I have that mental break, because I am addicted to my laptop. I am addicted to my phone, because it's phone and the laptop equals work, and I am addicted to my work, I have to say. So it is important to take a step back, to take your leave, to take walks, to do physical exercise, whatever, which I am sucking at the moment, because the physical exercise I'm doing is walking, but it's not enough.
She'll come to jiu-jitsu with me. I'm doing it. It's awesome.
Yeah, maybe.
It really like helps. I mean, you said something very specific, which is you put your phone away, and that is why driving, as soon as I get in the car to drive to a session, I put my phone in my bag, and I will not take my phone in the bag until I am back in the car after that. So that's 2 hours twice a week, right? It's not big, but 2 hours twice a week where my phone is off.
That's great.
And I'm not checking emails, I'm not checking messages, I'm not ringing anyone, I'm not sending any WhatsApps or receiving. So I'm glad you're doing that. How hard was it to implement those habits?
It's honestly hard, because I ended up doing them when you are burnt out. So another thing that I've been doing, I think now religiously since before COVID as well, is meditation. So I do my form of meditation, okay? I don't do it in the morning. Usually they recommend you do it in the morning and that you sit down and you're straight. I do it just before I go to bed. That is when I allow my brain and my mind to quiet down a bit. So I do it lying down, which is not entirely against the book, but it's my form of meditation, and you're focusing on breathing, and you're focusing on the now, and you're focusing on some sound or the sound of your breath, etc. I find that calming and relaxing, and I haven't stopped doing it, and I do it religiously every day.
Awesome.
And I started to do these things, the walking and the meditation, when I realized, like, shit, man, I need to have a breath. I need to take a breath.
Yeah.
I need to calm down and learn how to breathe. So it was a very late realization and the day where, especially, it was during COVID, it was stressful for us as a business, that I literally ended up with a slip disc in my neck. I got operated.
Wow.
That's when I realized, like, shit, I need to take a step back, as you're saying.
Yeah. I think the importance of taking care of physical health and avoid burnout is like you don't brush your teeth when your teeth start hurting, right?
Exactly.
You do it to avoid the teeth to start hurting. And
prevention, not cure.
And a lot of people think that burnout is something that happens like a cliff, like it happens instantly, whereas it is it's a state of mind that continues. And I think it's like it's super key for people to understand that. And in this world where and especially in Malta, I've noticed it a lot, that the culture is like, work as hard as you can, don't ask for help, just keep going, push through, just do it, break through the boundaries, figure it out, be as busy as you can. And me coming from a career where I've not really worked for a Maltese company, we were kind of taught those, and then moving and speaking to many different business owners and just observing businesses running in Malta as well. It's just that constant busyness. So no wonder people get stressed. No wonder people are angry in the traffic and they're honking their horns and swearing at the very most minor inconvenience. So I think absolutely, like the meditation part, like taking that time to unwind, be it if you spend it with loved ones and all that is super key, I think.
100%.
Absolutely. So I'm glad you're doing it, and I'm glad you're keeping.
Yeah, I need to do more of it, I think.
And so maybe it's not a rat race. It's just who you are, right?
There is that. There's the temperament and your genetic makeup, for sure, that you're a bit more, wired.
Yeah.
So I'm not negating that, for sure.
But you've always been a very high energy individual, which is something that really it's like really kind of I looked up to as well, because it's very hard to understand someone who's high energy, and I am all over the place as well. I'm ADHD, that kind of that form of behavior where you're focusing on 6 things at the same time. I'm having a conversation with someone, but I'm having 16 other conversations in my head, and I have to ask that person.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Like, sorry, can you just repeat, because I wasn't listening completely. Especially my partner when she's talking, because you get comfortable with the person you live with and all that. But so let's talk about tangible benefits, right? So what were the benefits of you putting that time during the day to rest and recover and think and reflect maybe, or even not think at all, just empty your mind, right?
I have to say it's not it hasn't been always perfect. It's really even like sometimes you need to force yourself like to not look at your phone. So like I might be tempted to go for a walk with my dog but take my phone, so I have to like slap myself on the wrist and say don't. So can't say that I've perfected it, I have to say. But it's important because as soon as I go for a walk, usually it's 45 minutes, and we go in a green area with the few remaining trees in Malta.
Yeah.
I go back and there's a home, and I have to get back to work. You feel a bit refreshed. You don't feel so exhausted and fatigued and groggy.
Yeah.
Even after a long days of work. So even 45 minutes, just a brisk walk and a bit of nature, is helping you mentally. Let alone if you create a regiment of that with combining with exercise and saying maybe after work, not looking at no screen time, whatever, which I don't do. But imagine if you have to compound these things together, how much more better off we would be, I would say. So the tangible effects are immediate. If you had to, even I had done some months going rowing.
Okay.
I would do
very heavy, like
but I was like, for me, I'm not a big sports person. After we used to play football, I never really got into sports again. But like rowing, where I'm not a weights guy. I don't really like doing the weights in the gym. But the rowing, I was invigorated. I would do 7 kilometers in half an hour, and after you feel amazing.
Yeah, once the endorphins hit, like at first you feel like you're gonna throw up after like you finish, but then like the first 15 minutes after, you're just on a different level, right?
And that's the contradiction where I say, like, I really love doing it. I was good at it. It made me feel good. Why am I not doing it now? Like, what's wrong with
That's
you?
true.
You know? And that is what my biggest struggle right now when it comes to the mental health stuff and taking care of yourself. Like, this is good for you, so why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
But it could be on the flip side. It's like you're gonna have junk food. You're like, this is bad for you, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So it's like on a spectrum.
So I give myself a day every couple of weeks where I don't go for my morning walk. I don't do my push-ups. I don't do my squats. I don't work out. I eat whatever I want.
Yeah.
I'll have coffee, which I cut out. Like I completely.
Wow. Okay.
I don't drink coffee at all.
Amazing.
But that day I'll have coffee because I know I haven't really, So that's like my day of. It's my fucking day, right? I don't do anything. But which is also important. I think the like for me, and maybe you'll disagree, but for me the key is balance to everything. Right?
Yeah,
you can work hard, you can work the hardest you've ever worked, but there's also balance. You need to spend time with your family. You need to build meaningful relationships with people and with your partner and with your parents, and if they're still around, and your family and all that. So like balance is so key in everything, because you don't want to overtrain, right?
Yes, for sure.
A lot of people, when they start training, which is, I've been guilty of it when I started to box, you just overtrain and then you get injured and then you can't train for 6 months. So how important is balance to you?
It's a very good question, because I do believe that balance is key, but I don't think I have a balanced life as such. Because I do work on extremes, I have to say. I am quite black and white. So I'm also very much on or off. So when I'm on,
you're an absolute person.
Yeah, I am a bit. I'm quite a lot. So I see the value in it, and I think it makes a lot of sense. But me working in balance is a bit unreachable for me. Like I work in extremes.
So you've heard the cliche work-life balance, right? But there's the last year or so I've been hearing this term work-life balance doesn't work because it depends on what type of job you have.
Sure.
But they changed the word balance to harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's the difference between that, right? It's more about bringing work and your work and your personal life together, so they are one and they're united, and there is like a seamless transition, right? So I've started a new job recently, and people there are amazing. Like their heart and soul are down to the person. Up from the CEO down to the person that, makes sure that the meeting rooms are clean, that the floors are clean. Everyone's putting their heart into every single project, every single day, right? And you see people bring their kids there, while they're doing the work, and the kids are entertained, right? So, they've got stuff there, and then they go home and they continue that relationship with their family and their personal lives, while also kind of dealing with work at the same time. So the people aren't burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the people are completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're a bit stressed, depending if there's a big project coming, etc. But so that for me is harmony, right? Because you're not balanced. You're not saying, at 5 o'clock my job ends and now I need to go home and now I need to start working, at my family. But rather, it is a transition that doesn't really feel like a stop and start. How hard is it to achieve that?
It really depends, in my opinion. It really depends if what you're working on is giving you purpose, if it's fulfilling. And the best example I can give of this or explanation is when I was not working at a place or on something that I was not in harmony with, using your words, is that, for example, come Sunday, I would get the Sunday blues.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, Monday, dreading, just thinking. I would get semi-depressed, semi-sad, maybe not depressed, sad, better word, about having to go to Monday to the office and all that. I don't get that anymore. So I have harmony on between I give a lot of value to my work. So my work is I take a lot of fulfillment out of it because I love what we're doing. I love our team. I love our product, and I love the value we're creating for our customers. So there's harmony between the work and my life because it gives me purpose. It gives me, So I don't mind it. Then me taking my work home, I don't feel like it's breaking that balance. But sometimes it does go over because, yes, I don't want to be working, every Saturday and Sunday. I don't want to be putting out fires every Monday, 11 o'clock at night. So that is, I think it's twofold. When you found that you're happy and you're getting fulfillment and you have purpose in what you're working on, but not to where they say, it's not work, find a job that you love doing and you never work a day in your life. That kind of bullshit. Yeah, but I'm not saying that kumbaya stuff, but there is that element of enjoying what you're doing, but not to the point where then that takes over your life.
Yeah.
And sometimes, yes, you do have to pull up your socks, when shit hits the fan.
Yes.
But if that is happening constantly, maybe you need to take a step back and understand why that is happening.
I agree so much with that. I say that probably once a week whenever I'm speaking to someone, and I have to explain, like, it's okay to work through the weekend. It's okay to work a few extra hours.
Yeah.
There's a deadline to a big project, or there's an event that's coming up, or
you
have to go and test on site something, or there's a big client you need to close, right? But if it's happening every week, then that's a cultural problem that needs to change from the head up, right?
Or it could be within you. You don't know how to switch off.
Exactly.
You don't know how to. And again, I am victim of this, or I put this on myself sometimes. When things are going well, I do know, I sometimes I don't know switch off, and I have to do these habits, these rituals of put your phone there and don't look at it. So there is that self-discipline that comes into it as well. So it's not just from the company, but it has to come from the individual as well.
So there's a saying, you were talking about the Sunday blues, and there is a quote I keep saying on LinkedIn and stuff, where like the best measure of the best measure of a company's culture is how your employees feel on Sunday.
Exactly. Yeah.
It made so much sense when I read it. I was like, yeah, it actually is, because
it's the truth.
I've been in jobs where it would be Sunday and I'm like completely depressed, and I've been in jobs where I would be not excited, but I would be like indifferent. It's Monday's going to be back to work.
Yeah.
I have no dread, even though I know it's going to be busy, but I'm not dreading anything. It's just going to be work. It's going to be awesome. Get to meet really cool colleagues. I learn from them, and
I think that is like the litmus test. To simplify it, I think the litmus test is that if you're comfortable sometimes working at 9 o'clock at night, or having to work on the weekend, or not getting the Sunday blues, then I think you have a good work-life balance.
I think so as well. I agree with you.
Maybe oversimplifying it.
No, I think that's a fair. I think it's simplifying something for me is good, because if you can simplify it, it means that you got you understand the feeling of it, right? Like you understand the concept, and I agree with you 100%. How do you deal with boredom? Do you ever get bored?
Not really. I used to when I was younger. I don't anymore because there's always something to do.
Is it okay? I'll stop you there. Is it because you dislike getting bored?
I hate
Keep your-
getting bored.
right.
I absolutely hate. I think I once heard it in a book, and I don't know if I'm going to be saying this right, but it was something like the opposite of happiness is not sadness, is boredom.
Okay.
Something like that. And yeah, boredom sucks. I remember being younger and being bored. Like, I'm bored. And now that isn't.
Drawing on the car window with your finger, or just window down, window up.
I don't. I absolutely don't. So there's and there's so much content to consume nowadays, and there's Netflix, or you can I would just pick up a book. I would just go for a walk. I would just go whatever.
There's a theory going around, and it's backed by study, kind of, that boredom does trigger the creative parts of your brain, right? So
I
the
agree.
subconscious part.
Yes,
Which is why most good ideas come in the shower or in the toilet or walking or whatever.
Yeah, I really believe in that. Some great ideas that I've had, they came when you're absolutely not thinking about work or whatever. You're in a very different state. So I agree with it. Even like this is coming even from Newton. He was under the tree with the apple.
Yeah,
he was chilling. So there is value to it. For sure.
Awesome. So let's go into your businesses a bit, because I think we've talked. This was the intro question.
That was the intro.
And you were worried about the interview time, saying, "Oh, I don't think we're going to fit enough time." But we're that was the introductory question. But
oh my god.
let's talk about your businesses, right? So you've got what, Len? Yeah. So that's half an hour.
With question one.
That's question one. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I'm just gonna count how many. Okay. So there's 4, right?
What brands?
Yeah, 4 brands.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And then there's Trackage Scheme.
sure.
So let's go into them, right? So you have 4 brands under the same umbrella, from what I understand.
Correct.
That operate within the same office, I imagine, with the same
Yes.
employees.
Yes.
And then you've got Trackage Scheme, which is more of started as a side hobby, but it's been going for ages now.
Yeah. In March it was new. Yeah. In March it was 10 years.
Wow, amazing!
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like, well done.
Yeah. Cheers.
But let's start with the most recent one, I think, which is Tableo, right?
Tableo, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were in the restaurant tech industry, which is a very competitive, competitive market, right? Especially in Malta right now, where you just see a new restaurant pop up every day.
Mm-hmm.
So what inspired you to create a platform like it? Like, as in, and how does it stand out from competitor services? So why would people choose Tableo over other services?
That's a very good question. And to answer that question, I need to explain the others. So we were with GrowUp Podcast specifically. So we were in the starting with weddings and then events industry. So think of us, GrowUp Event, like the matchmaker, the middleman between the person planning an event, and we match them with suppliers. So you're getting married and you need the venue, and the whole premise is, instead of having to contact suppliers one by one, you just put in your date, your availability, and what have you, and the system would connect you directly with the suppliers that match your criteria. And those were those 2 platforms. We started with Get Hitched. It did really well. Then we went into Evently, and it did really well. And we were looking to take Evently international. Our goal as a company is to internationalize, plain and simple. When we did that, literally we were planning we were going to expand into Estonia, because we had a local partner there. COVID literally hit, and we went to a grinding halt. So everything literally events were shut down, and essentially our business was shut down. So instead of sitting on our ass and waiting to see what would happen and when, we took a gamble. Essentially, we took a big gamble. We took a big bet, and we bet the entire company on this, where we're like, okay, from Evently we could see that the most requests we got were for venues. Why? Because an event needs a venue. Without the venue, you don't have an event. And then everything plugs into that. We could see how popular venues were for the amount of leads we were getting from people booking venues was huge. and there were many restaurants on our platform. So we're like, there's something here. And when we were brainstorming some ideas of how do we get out of this shit, which is called COVID, we had like 4 or 5 ideas. One of them was Bookia. And Bookia is essentially a restaurant booking platform. So think of it like booking.com, but for restaurants, right? So instead of having to call or message or email a restaurant to book, you just use the app or the website, and you just click and you book. So there's the menus and the cuisine and the photos. And essentially we started building Bookia while restaurants were shut down. There was, COVID, we were locked down or semi-lockdown, everyone was shut, and we were building this platform for the future. And then to come to Tableo, we started, so Bookia is a discovery tool for people wanting to book a restaurant.
Okay.
Tableo is more of the, like you said, restaurant tech. So it's the back end on which the restaurant reservations operate.
Okay.
So Tableo is more B2B, if you will, and Bookia is more B2C.
So you're essentially supplying on-the-shelf software to restaurants, and they customize it.
It's software as a service, correct. It's software as a service. It's a cloud. It runs in the cloud. But our main client is the restaurant, where they are managing all the reservations through Tableo. So be it a walk-in or a phone booking or website, or with our integrations with the Michelin Guide or Facebook or Google, everything is plugged into this. It's like a CRM. It's like a CRM.
And then it gives them analytics to improve their business and all
exactly.
that, right? So, okay. That's really cool. I mean, how did you find that niche, though? How did you...
Honestly, so you asked me this question, like how do we stand out and how we divide the niche? So Tableo, we built it, honestly, because we had clients on Bookia who said, we like what you're doing, they liked how we were giving them business, essentially.
Yeah.
Once we eventually launched, because of COVID, we were a lifeline for many restaurants. When they had literally zero bookings. We were there helping them in the toughest of times. So we built a bit of rep and clout around these guys actually had our back. So apart from that, they liked our customer service, how we did things. And they were on competing platforms to Tableo. But they were unhappy for different reasons. Either it was slow, or the customer service was lacking, or there were certain features they didn't have. And they're like, hey, you guys are so good at building these products, because they knew about Get Hitch and Evently and Bookia. They're like, why don't you build something like this? And we're like, fair enough. And we validated the idea with some other clients, which were on Bookia. We saw that there was a need that we could fill, at least locally. There was definitely an opportunity where we could stand out. So we went for it. And initially it was called Bookia Smart Diary as a, extension of Bookia, but Bookia Smart Diary because the diaries where they're putting it all over. But when we, as I said, wanted to internationalize, that is our goal as a company. We wanted to differentiate Bookia from Tableo. We wanted a .com domain. We wanted a bit of a more catchy name. So we rebranded Bookia Smart Diary to Tableo. It is a very competitive space. Globally, we're now international. We're selling to restaurants in Spain, in Italy, in Czech Republic, in Romania, etc. It's very competitive. There are people that have been there for ages. There's like Open Table is owned by Booking.com, and that has been there for so many years.
How do you break into a market like that?
Such as Spain?
Yeah, so like a big market where you've got like a massive competitor, probably, tens or if not, hundreds of devs behind the work.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're working with right now. So that is our biggest challenge right now. So there are in different markets. So Malta, I would say, with Tableo and Bookia, we've kind of dominated the market, pretty much in Malta. So
what's the edge on the competition?
The edge is there were essentially two main platforms in Malta. I'm not going to say mentioning the names, there's no need, but essentially from a product point of view, we are more modern. We're much more user-friendly. We have many more integrations. So we're reserved with Google partners. We're Michelin partners.
Okay.
We are Facebook and Instagram partners. They didn't have these integrations.
So this is a question based on not just your product, but it'll probably help listeners who are building business or who have businesses.
Yeah.
Because I noticed this in Malta that there's been a bit of a revolution where the customer experience is starting to actually be given more importance, but it's still very much behind
Agreed.
conventional runnings of businesses internationally, right? If you compare going into a shop here to going into a shop in the UK or going to a shop in Spain, the service is black and white, right?
Yeah.
How much focus did you give to the customer experience?
That's what this is what I was coming to. The other, and I would say we have a great product. Like we have now, we do have a world-class product. We are giving the big boys a run for their money, meaning we have people on competing platforms that have switched over to us, not just locally but even abroad. It is challenging. Every day is a challenge. Every day is a struggle. But we are managing. So from a product point of view, it's solid. We're always making it better. But where I would say, hand on heart, we stand out locally and even internationally is our customer service. Our customer service, the way, not just from, I'm not talking after sales. I'm talking the entire journey. So from onboarding the client, even during the trial phase, they might do.
The client being the
restaurant, the owner, the manager, whatever. So from a product point of view, we give them free setup, free training, free customer service Monday to Sunday, multiple languages. So we support them in Italian, in Spanish, in Maltese, in English.
Okay.
Apart from that, so during the trial phase, we literally, go and train their entire team. We make sure that they literally know the A to Z of our product. We even help them. We go above and beyond to help them with stuff that is not on our pay grade, like which should be either their job or their marketing.
The extra mile,
Yeah, connecting our widget onto their website. So sometimes we end up even doing, having to go into WordPress and checking some plugin or having to do some HTML, enabling our booking buttons on Facebook, etc. But then, as soon as enough, imagine we onboard a restaurant today, we then, let's say, call them in 2 days, 3 days, how's it going? So we have a customer success part, and where we'd call them after 2-3 days, we'd call them a week later. Then we do a roster where every quarter of the year, every year, we're calling all restaurants, literally calling them. How's it going? Do you have any issues? Do you have any blockers? Do you need new training? Do you know about these new features? So we're constantly there. We're answering people. So from a customer service point of view, we're operating usually till about 8 p.m. But then there are the account managers. So if your restaurant has a problem or a question, sometimes they have stupid questions that can wait until the next day, but for them it's urgent. Our staff are answering them at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, Sunday at 9 o'clock in the morning. So there's this care.
How many people do you have employed?
We are
team size.
We are a small team. We are only 14 people now.
That is pretty impressive, given the span in which kind of you're reaching globally.
But that's what I would say. Our true edge. Product. This is the thing. Look, products. Think of anything. Nowadays, there's a lot of everything. If you're talking laptops, if you're talking mobile phones, if you're talking microphones, if you're talking food apps, the Bolts, the Ubers, if you're talking taxis, there's a lot of everything. So it's difficult to stand out. But we do stand out from certain things, from usabilities of use, price points sometimes. So in certain markets, we are undercutting the market. With our price point, because we are small, we don't have hundreds of developers, like you say, so we can be more agile. So our overheads might not be what they have. We still have overheads, but we can go with a more cost or price penetration strategy. But apart from the product, we really care, man. Everyone is blood, sweat, and tears to take the company forward, which is to excel in an international spotlight. That is our goal. So and it's all down to the team.
And you've done really well, right? I mean, you wouldn't have 4 parallel companies running at the same time with a team of 40 people and, achieving a significant level of success if it wasn't the case.
I have to say, like, Get Hitched and Evently, I want to say this, let's call a spade a spade. We don't give them the same attention that we give Bookia and Tableo. Honestly, they run pretty much on autopilot.
Is it because they just work, right?
They just work, man. They're just work, and also we're not looking to grow them. They're like in maintenance mode. We're not looking to grow there. Because they are purely Malta-focused products. Yeah. And what do I mean by this? If Get Hitched is for weddings, and we want caterers for your wedding, there are only so many caterers that you can get on board the platform.
Yeah.
I can't invent a caterer. So we're happy.
The pool of clients is limited, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have no intention of internationalizing those products. The model doesn't work. And this is why COVID was a blessing in disguise for us, because we finally found the model, which is through Tableo, which is scalable. It's a SaaS product, like I said. We can go B2B, and literally restaurants are in a huge amount, and we can grow and grow and grow and grow that amount.
You've answered so many questions I was going to ask, because my next question was going to be like, talk about a tough time. I think COVID is probably like the toughest time you could imagine.
We can stay here all night. But I can go on and on.
I think if you look at kind of the environment or the ecosystem in which you operate in,
yeah.
If you look ahead, right, like what trends do you foresee in the tech and event industries combined, particularly for you, and then on the back of that, how do you steer the ship to stay ahead of that curve, right? So you steer the ship to make sure that you are constantly not falling behind.
That's another very big and good question. Challenges, in what sense? Challenges for us as a product in our industry, or challenges of the industry?
It's not challenges. It's more about like, what do you foresee happening within this space that you really need to like keep ahead of, right? So, the big one is AI.
Yeah.
Like the big one is some people are worried about AI.
Yeah.
I use AI day in, day out. I mean, these questions, as I said, I spent 10 minutes typing up a prompt in ChatGPT, and the questions came out, right? I'm just, kind of admitting at this point, but it does it does help, because I know what I want, and then I get to pick from a list of stuff that I don't really have to spend, 2, 3 hours, 4 hours actually, brainstorming.
Yeah.
So how does that work in your space, and how do you foresee and how do you steer the ship to be ahead of the game?
Yeah. So that's a very good question, and I honestly am not scared of AI. I use AI as well, and I do see a shift for this called the restaurant space, the hospitality space. That shift is happening and is going to continue happening. Meaning, if restaurants do not get on board with these technologies, like even before the AI and all that complicated stuff, let's break it down a bit. The amount of restaurants, I'm saying not just in Malta, I would say Malta is a bit more avant-garde than certain places, even in Spain and Italy. When it comes to tech, when it comes to coming on board new systems.
What do you mean by that?
That we're seeing our Maltese audience in restaurants, they are a bit more open to new technologies, to new platforms and systems.
Why do you think that's the case compared to other markets?
I think it's cultural. I think that Maltese people or Maltese businesses are aspirational. They are looking to make more money, to grow, to become bigger, because they want to expand. I think we as Maltese people, we are entrepreneurial. Yeah. We do have a bit of a growth mindset. We do have a growth mindset. At what cost then? It might not be sustainable growth. It might not be thinking about future generations, but
It's unregulated growth.
maybe unregulated growth, but there's still that hunger, that thirst for. I think there is that passion for Maltese people and Maltese businesses to move forward. I see that. So they are more willing to come on board. Like, look what happened even with COVID. It was because of COVID, but look how overnight restaurants were on board food. It was hundreds,
because you have to figure out a way how to survive.
Right? Yeah. But still, having said that, the amount of restaurants we speak to every day that are, do not have any system, man. They're handling hundreds, thousands of bookings or hundreds of bookings and thousands of people per month, but everything's written down on a piece of paper, which blows my mind.
What's your elevator pitch to those restaurants? Like, why should they go into, not particularly your product, but why should they integrate software?
The elevator pitch is very simple, and I tell them, like, even if you're not going to go on a system like with us, go on a system like ours, because you really are missing out on so many aspects. You look from a business point of view, you're either underbooking the restaurant or overbooking the restaurant, meaning bad client reviews and all that. Yeah. You're literally slamming yourself by the only way you can book is by calling, meaning you're literally going to be slammed with the phone 24/7, where you can actually open up new avenues for people to book online, from Facebook, from your website, whenever, so you can fill the restaurant while you sleep. If you're a big trend right now, globally, is no-shows, late cancellations and no-shows. And if you don't have a system in place, if you're running a pen and paper system, there's no way that you can mitigate no-shows, for example. No-shows is a massive issue because
once you lose the table, you're never getting it back, right?
And we've created a system where they can take like when you go to a hotel and they pass your card, and then if you charge something to the room, they will maybe charge your card. We use the same concept, like a card block, and if they don't show up, if they break their terms and conditions, they take a no-show fee to cover their cost at least. Or they can take a deposit. All online when booking, as if you're buying something from ASOS.
Yeah.
There's so many other things.
So there's that level of commitment that the customer has to give when they're booking, right, and show up. That's cool.
The elevator pitch, honestly, is if you're not on the system, you are going to be left in the dust, because eventually you're going to have to eventually. And honestly, your competitors are on such systems, and they are optimizing their business. They are enabling their customers to book online, and they're giving them a better experience. So customers will flock to these people because they are better, and you're gonna slowly die a slow death.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
I like the fill the restaurant while you sleep.
That's part of the pitch.
It's a good pitch, man.
It's true.
If I had a restaurant, I would have bought your product for sure.
Yeah.
At this point, if we look at take a step back in the past, right? Like, so for our listeners, and for our probably 3-4 listeners that we're gonna have. No, I hope it's more. But
the content is good, man. So content.
Well, you're the content, so
you're asking the great questions.
Well, ChatGPT is. But no, if you had to look at, when you started.
Yeah.
So how does someone go from an ideation phase, right? So you probably have that, that brainchild in your head for a while. How do you go from ideation to action to actually making money initially, right? How do you start? Because I think that a lot of people who listen to podcasts, and particularly the style of this podcast, is based on, delving in the mind of CEOs, entrepreneurs, people who have accomplished something that is admirable. How do you start, right? Yeah. Where do you put pen to paper?
Another great question, and honestly, the quick fire answer to that is validation. Validate your idea quick and easy, quick and fast, in the very early stages. And this is what we have done with every single product. And I want to connect it. I'm going to divert a bit. I'm going to connect it because I don't think I concluded on the answer before. Where do you see things going? But of AI. So I see AI coming into the play, and we are actually working on a product related to AI, So you're gonna be literally, I don't know when this is coming out, but you're gonna be the first person to know outside of our team. But we're essentially we have built a prototype. We've created our layer with ChatGPT. It can be anything, but it can be Bard, but you connect with ChatGPT. So imagine you're going to book, you don't want to call, you don't like to book online through a website, you like Messenger, you like instant Messenger, Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram. From there, we've created a chatbot. Yes, chatbots have been done, but usually chatbots are usually Q&A. We've closed the loop where the booking, hey, so there's a chatbot, I'm going to be 2 people, 8 p.m., it's through AI. The reservation, once all that is completed, is going to end up into Tableo. Okay. So the booking will be placed on a table. And
AI does that for you.
Everything is automated. So we are literally automating the instant messaging channel. Now, why do I mention this? Because to answer your question about how do you go to ideation to making money, is you need to validate your idea. You need to start speaking to people really, really fast. And they're in the early days. Even if the prototype looks like shit, you basically need to tell them, hey, this is what we're working on. Do you like it? Do you see the value for this? Would you buy it? And every product that we've had so far, even this AI product add-on to Tableo that we're going to launch soon, we will sell it before we launch it. And that is the true test. You can have the greatest product ever, but are people gonna take money out of their pocket, their hard-earned money, and give it to you?
Right.
And that's great also to do so, because they're gonna give you. Usually, you as the creator, you're not the client. They are the client, so they're gonna give you, as soon as you give them a prototype, show it to them, they're gonna say, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And they're gonna just make your product better.
How important is it to listen to clients like that?
Dude, it's the most important thing. And I know this sounds like a cliche, and I know it might sound like a pitch, but I promise you, it ain't. But we do use it in our pitch. Tableo, specifically Tableo, is built. We are the coders, we're the developers, we're the designers, but it's built from the brain of the restaurateurs. Every single feature is built from us asking, what is your problem? How can I solve it? This is what we're suggesting.
So if you had to give advice to the generation that's coming up now and our generation as well, because we're not that old. I'm talking.
You're only as old as you feel.
I feel very old.
Same here, man.
Every day. But okay, so using that, the product that's really good. That's a really cool way of thinking, that our product is built by our customers. It's not us building the product.
It's the truth.
They're the ideators of it.
Yeah.
For people who maybe are entrenched in the mindset of, it's my business, I decide how it's built, and we see a lot of that in Malta, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Yeah.
Of stubbornness, of the customer isn't right, of combative, almost combative spirit with the customer, which is, who's going to take the blame, me or the customer, right? If there's a complaint. If you had to give a piece of advice to someone who has a business or is growing a business about the importance of customer, right? Without using yours as an example, but using that analogy of the customer is building our business, what would it be?
It's literally, do not stop asking questions, do not stop asking for feedback, even if the feedback makes you, if it hurts you, even if you don't agree with the feedback, and I honestly do not believe that the customer is always right. Many times the customer is wrong. It's just how you handle you can never be demeaning or put them down. Like, just because they say something doesn't necessarily mean you're going to take that feedback. Yeah. But if you, as soon as you stop here listening to what your customer wants, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot, because you're literally creating a product to serve them. And if you're not serving them, then what the hell is your product doing in the first place? So I have seen even close friends of mine nearly take their business down, crash it into the ground, because they just wouldn't listen to feedback.
Is that an emotional attachment issue?
For sure, it has to be, and it has to be ego, it has to be whatever, pride fucking with you, but I really I feel very passionate about this, that you really need to ask questions all the time, and you need to ask sometimes the hard questions, and you need to have the self-confidence to not take that personally, because this is, again, it's business, sure, but they're only making your platform, your product, your whatever better.
When I was very early in the coaching days, I think one thing that they taught us is that feedback is a gift, right? Cheesy, I know, but
But it is.
But if somebody's taking time out of their day to tell you, listen,
exactly,
like, you can improve it this way.
Yes.
And feedback can come in different forms. It could be a customer literally screaming down the phone.
Yeah, it can be a bad review.
It could be a bad review, whatever.
Yeah.
So it could be in a very negative emotional state. But I think what separates, and I'm not a business owner, but what separates people who grow their business and people who don't is that they see opportunity in that bad emotional state of like, this guy's actually onto something, right? Like,
for sure. And it sometimes customer feedback, and I have to say this, sometimes you can't always act on that feedback because of lack of resources, right? But sometimes customer feedback has given us ideas for new products, man. Or let's call them offshoots or add-ons.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make any business sense not to accept feedback, not to ask for it, not to want it.
Do you think
it's like they're working for you?
Yeah. Do you think there is a problem in this country where people do not listen to customer feedback?
I think that it's a human problem,
yeah.
not a Malta problem or whatever. Honestly, I think we're getting better locally because people are on their eggshells, because there are also people who are very keyboard warriors, and they're very trigger happy. That even I see this, like in Salot and are being served, and they literally make me cringe. So they would write something like, "I have been to this shop XYZ, this restaurant, whatever, 10 times, going all my life. It's always been great, but I went last Saturday. I had a bad experience. I am never going again." So you went 10 times, which were great, but you had one time, which was bad, and you're shaming them publicly, and you're never going to go again. So now, because of this, it's a bit over the top, but people are on their eggshells, so they're kind of having to fake giving a great service.
It's interesting you say that. This week I went for a dinner, and we went to a place I love, right? Which I'm not going to mention because,
That's fine.
Sponsors. But I'm not going to mention it. But if you had to go, and this person was saying, "Oh, last time I came here, and I hyped it up to, a close family member of mine, and it was horrible service. They didn't have the food we wanted, they didn't have the desserts we wanted." He said, "And I swore if it wasn't to come with you to this event, to this dinner, I had sworn I would never come again." And then we sat down, amazing dinner. They had everything, like the meal was excellent. Like, we had really, really good service. We had a laugh, had a few drinks, and then at the end he said, "I'm glad I came because now I'm going to come again." Right? But
it's so volatile.
Is it just is it just the nature of the business that customers are, you will use the term like fickle, where they will say, I've had really good experiences. I've had one that was really, really bad. I am never coming back here."
I just think it's how we've become as humans, where I think people are feeling a bit more entitled nowadays. But having said that, I'm trying to see both ends.
But it's because there's a lot of options
because there's also a lot of options, and also people might feel now, because inflation and prices have increased, they might say, and it's true, sometimes, many times you're going out and it's very expensive, so they're like, I really need to get my money's worth.
Yeah, of course.
And if it's not excellent, then I'm disappointed.
There's plenty of restaurants that are, they look great, they're very overpriced, and then you go and you just have a normal meal you could have had it at the regular cafe for like half the price, right? So absolutely. And I think another thing is that time is a big currency as well, right? Like, most people especially high-end restaurants, like if it's a high-end restaurant, you're mostly looking at people that, are willing to spend that money, but to make that money most of the time you're always at work, right?
Exactly.
Or it's a very demanding job that mentally, where you want to use that time to unwind rather than have to wait for, the waiter to come and ask you for a drink for half an hour, or you don't have to wait to be seated, right? Or you don't have to call to book. because that is a massive inconvenience in this day and age where you can just use an app, especially with Bolt and Walt culture, right? So absolutely agree. Ben, I think we've been going for a while, but I want to ask you a few questions to pass on the advice. We didn't hit up Trackage Scheme, guys. Check it out. Like, you know, you're still doing events. I've joined a few, especially at the very start. I'm a bit older now. I'm not, you know, I've got a receding hairline and bad teeth. No one wants to party with me anymore. But it all the events have been really, really like professionally organized. From what I've seen. So guys, check it out. You know, head online. What's the website for Trackage?
We do our events. So Trackage Scheme is like I just want to say very clearly. Sure. I'm not going to take too much time, but essentially it's just the aim is to be a hub that supports and promotes artists which are alternative and underground. So it can be bands, or it can be, I don't know, a jazz band, or an indie band, or a techno producer, or whatever. So it's creating like a community that can celebrate these people and give them a platform. But we also do our events, of course. We don't do that many of them anymore. We're more kind of supporting other events which are not ours. Like recently we did Rock for Richmond, was a charity event, was amazing. You know, we've like something totally different class, you know, where we're doing tickets. We had them sell tickets through our platform, you know, just like concert tickets. And we promote their event as well.
Okay.
So essentially that's what Trackage Scheme is, and there's other stuff, but the website is trackagescheme.com to answer your question. And from there you can go to the shop to buy tickets for events. But again, they are they are in the alternative and underground realm, like Rock the South and Rock for Richmond. And
I think the last event I joined, I think it was in Champul, and there was like a live band, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's when we used to do by the pool.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, when we used to do the Rooftop Live session.
Yes, Rooftop Live, that's the name.
Wednesday,
that was a while ago, though.
Yeah. So,
How old we are. There you go.
It's something cool if you're into music.
I'm going to ask you just two more questions, and we can wrap up, I think, because you've been a gold mine of knowledge, so thanks for that. Can you share like a memorable anecdote that captures the essence of your journey? And I know you don't think you have made an impact, because you said that before we started the interview, but so could you share an anecdote that captures the essence of your entrepreneurial journey and the impact that you've made, right? So how do you feel now that you've achieved what you've achieved? I know you said it's not enough and you're still going, but if you had to put it in a phrase.
Fair enough. Like I do want to say this. I humbly, honestly, I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to be modest, but humbly, I feel that there's so much more that we need to do. I need to achieve. I believe I'm very much in our infancy of our journey. Not just to say that as a cliche, but honestly, because we had to restart. So as a company, we've been 6 years, but I would say we've been 2.5 years now since we had to totally restart with Bookie and Tableo. And we are moving forward. We have made some amazing milestones, you know, becoming Malta's first and only reserved with Google partners, to create a platform that is working with over 1,000 restaurateurs, that we've managed to internationalize, that our clients love us, you know, that their reviews are raving, that we have an amazing team, that we worked on some projects which are truly amazing, and that we've managed to power through, you know, going from literally a gaping hole and the abyss to actually now being in the best place we've ever been as a company. These are all successes and milestones that I need to tell myself we should be proud of. But we are very far away, at least from where I believe we should be. I don't feel successful. I don't think I've made it, you know, or whatever. I think making it is we're very far away from that yet.
What does making it look like?
And that was what I was coming to. So what does it mean? It's very subjective. Success is very subjective. For me, success is not, let's say, saying, you know, to have this amount of money in the bank, or to make this. Honestly, my I would say success would be when we have much more traction internationally, which we are building up to. Like we have in Malta, that Malta is like a well-oiled machine. There's certain predictability in our sales approach and how many clients we onboard and how many users and all that. And repeating that model at scale into other markets is would be success, I would say. When you can say, we actually we are operating multinationally or internationally, and you might say, well, I might have an office in Spain, for example, and you're building a team there. That is where I feel success. But success is if you're happy, if you're again, you're not getting the Sunday blues, that's for me success. Sure. If you're having a hardworking, intelligent, smart team that is driven, that's success. So it's subjective. And what I need to become better at is really acknowledging the small wins, because the small wins I'm banging on the table.
You are, yeah, it's okay.
Sorry.
Choke you out there.
Yeah. The small successes make, add up to the final big success, whatever that is.
Okay, that's good. Last question. Motivational segment of the podcast. If you had to give advice, to if you know that you've got the whole generation, current generation, the next generation, and people that are also, older than us that maybe are looking to start a business or they're going to take the plunge and give it a shot. What would you say if you had the floor for 5 minutes to motivate them?
To motivate them?
Yes.
Okay. I would say if you have a burning desire within you, if you have a passion, if you have a calling, you need to entertain it. You definitely need to entertain it, because if you don't, you're gonna be unhappy until you do. I would say starting your own business, leaving the corporate world, leaving the steady paycheck is always hard. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it's one of the most rewarding things. So you do need to make that jump, but don't do it cold turkey. Build up, start saving on the side, maybe build up a bit of a cushion. So if it goes tits up, when you're eventually going to make that cut, you have a cushion. Another piece of advice is don't speak to friends, necessarily get feedback from friends or from family, but actually speak to clients.
Why is that?
Because you might get people, because your friends and family are usually not going to buy your product. Who's going to buy your product is the client who's going to buy your product.
Is there also an element of safety in terms of the feedback you get? Like, oh no, don't do it. Like, why would you risk it?
That's 100%. There are many. I mean, if you have like I have a mother who is scared of change, who's scared of of safety. If I had to listen to her, and I know she didn't mean, had any bad intention, but if I listened to her, I wouldn't be where I am right now.
There's a saying that mothers don't worry about you, they worry for you.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's another thing. If you have to listen to her, no, don't do that, because what is they if you really listen to them, they might scare you off from doing something amazing. But even from a business point of view, again, you need to will this target audience buy your product. Another piece of advice that I would have is it's gonna be tough. You need to have thick skin, so get ready to be punched in the face. Get ready to have existential crisis, and get ready. Just prepare yourself, and you're never really prepared for it. But it's okay that it's gonna be hard. Don't give up because it's gonna be hard. Don't get disheartened. It's gonna be tough. Rarely do you ever. There aren't these get rich schemes. Anyone where they're sold. Anyone who has achieved anything. Artists, musicians, whatever, writers, film stars, movie stars. Whatever. It was a long journey. So get ready for the toughness and don't give up. I can keep going on.
No. A lot of like my experiences with success came after long periods of hard work.
Hard work is
So like, 3-4 years of taking shit from a horrible boss or working a job that maybe you're not 100% satisfied, but really understanding the intricate workings. And then all of a sudden success just hits you overnight, right? And people say,
but it's not overnight.
Yeah, people say, it happened to you overnight and you're lucky you got
It's
that
been-
promotion or whatever, but it's been coming for years.
For years. So you're nurturing it for years. That's another thing. If there's no such thing as achieving anything worth its salt without hard work. I've never had it. So you need to. Another piece of advice is you're gonna work your ass off. So make sure that you love the work. That
The process.
the process is and the cliche. It's the journey, not the not the destination. It is the truth though, because again, this. Oh, going back to what we said in the beginning, that you're never fulfilled. If you watched, I forgot the name of the film Michael Jordan.
You know which one you're talking about.
I forgot the name,
Yeah.
but
We'll get it on the screen.
yeah, but the Michael Jordan. He had won. I'm not a big basketball fan, but he's an animal, right? And he had won everything. He was the best basketball player in the world, and he was gonna again retire. He had already won everything. He had nothing left to prove. But he's like, I think he had lost one game or a championship or whatever, and he's like, an interviewer told him, how do you feel? He's like, yeah, it sucks that we didn't win this one, kind of thing. So it's never, he had achieved everything.
It's almost like a compulsive.
It's
it's
a curse,
Yeah.
like it's a blessing too, because he makes him so ambitious, such an animal. But at the same time, it's like he's never fulfilled.
Yeah.
So another piece of advice would be that, really falling in love with what you're doing, but be aware that you might have certain goals in mind, but then you're like, okay, now what? And that's never being enough.
Reinventing what you do and reinventing yourself.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Ben, it has been a very relaxing conversation.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be very nervous, given it was the first filming. So
It was great, man. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
no, thank you for coming. It's awesome. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ben Vincenti, the guy who never stops. Thank you for coming on the GrowUp Podcast.
Cheers.
We don't know when this is going to launch, but I look forward to figuring it out. Larry will figure it out. Our tech guy, our tech guru, who set this all up for us.
Yeah.
White Light Pictures for sponsoring the studio for us, which was awesome. So
Amazing.
thank you for coming. Thanks to the studio providers and to Larry, who's helping us in the backdrop. We look forward to having you again in the future, hopefully,
Would be
when
great.
you have 7 companies.
Yeah. Thanks for the invitation, and thanks for the great questions. I really enjoyed it. I've never done anything like this, so I've never done a podcast for sure. I think it has a lot of potential. The content is everything, obviously.
Yeah.
So I wish you the best of luck, man. And
Awesome.
thanks for everything.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.